Welcome back folks, today we're going to go back to Palworld, and in this video we will go through everything you need to know about this game as a beginner, how to farm pals, level up, gather resources and much more, so let's begin. Before you even make a new game, make sure to go through the settings. Palworld allows you to really micromanage how you want your world to run in the terms of difficulty, resources availability and much more. In case you want a standard experience, you can always go for a normal difficulty, but if you want a bigger challenge where enemies deal more damage and in general take more damage from you, you can go for a harder difficulty, but as a first time player I recommend standard normal difficulty. Also make sure that if you create a character in this game that you really know like how you want your character to look, because once you create it, there is no way to change it, at least right now. Once you start the game, you will appear on what is almost a tutorial island of a sort with low level pals around like Lamball, Chipicky and so on. Don't worry, the game has a short tutorial giving you messages on what to do next so you're not completely lost. And Palworld starts as any other survival game. You cut down trees to get wood and fiber and hit rocks to get stone. Keep in mind that at the start, wood, fiber and stone will be very important, so it's always good to have a bit more so you can craft all of the starter things. And don't worry, even if you create something and want to destroy it, you will get all of the resources you invested into it back. Once you open up the map, you will see that some areas are already revealed, while the rest is hidden. So if you played Elden Ring, Valheim or similar games, it works with the same idea. You reveal your map pretty much as you walk around. On the map there are a few things to pay attention to. First off, you will see these bosses which will range in level from 11 to 50, and fighting them or capturing them yields you materials and other talent points that we will talk about shortly. Also on the map there will be a few different biomes, later on including places where you will need fire or cold resistant armor, but at the start of the game you don't really need to worry about this yet. Palworld also has 5 big bosses which represent faction leaders of the area, and they fight with their own pal. The first big boss fight will be the end of the tutorial, so make sure you are prepared for it. And also the others you will find in these towers spread across the map. You can of course see them already in the distance so you can navigate more easily to them, but of course keep in mind that these big bosses are pretty strong and you will need to farm your pals and play through the game a bit more before reaching them. On top of that, you will also reveal a lot of fast travel points. From them you will get 1 tech skill point when you unlock it for the first time, and you can freely fast travel between them to or from your base, because a lot of traversal later on will be just, going through these fast travel towers because it's easier that way. Once you open your inventory screen, it has your standard inventory slot, along with 4 weapon slots, which also includes work tools, 2 accessory slots, head, body, shield, glider and food spots. And on the right you also have stats which you can enhance per level because you get 1 point per level. I can tell you right away that work speed is kinda useless because later on your pals will work on it anyway, so it's better to spend your points into health, stamina, attack, defense, even weight to carry stuff around, because you definitely will. Now after you get into the game you will be prompted to go to the tech tree, and as you can see on level 1 you get your standard workbench, axe, pickaxe, torch and wooden club. For every level you have technology points which you can spend, and for each boss you defeat for the first time you get ancient technology points. Ancient tech points goes into some extra items which are very important for you, like for example egg incubator, feedback, condenser and so on. Because for example, to have a food spot in your inventory like I showed you, to automatically use it for you or your pal if you are hungry, then you must get this feedback. If not, then you have to apply it manually, which is not that bad. But for the overall progression, it's pretty straightforward. The higher the level, the better the equipment is going to be. You can check in the tech tab all of the resources you need to craft something. My advice is get egg incubator as soon as you reach level 7 so you can place any eggs you find as you explore at start. In case you see that some things are locked or not available in this tech tree, or for example if you have a big question mark, this will stay locked until you catch a specific pal. So let's say I caught a Foxspark. When that happens, Foxspark harness will be available to learn, which is their special attack. In this case, you can use this pal as a flamethrower. For the rest, it will be a saddle later on, or a rocket launcher, miniguns and so on for bigger pals. You don't have to know each one, but in the case you use a pal a lot, and there's of course some pals which are better than the others, then you will benefit from it when you definitely get it. These things are crafted on the Pal Gear workbench, so make sure to make one when available. Speaking of pals, they are going to be your biggest resource in the game. This game will prompt you to catch a pal right away using pal spheres. By attacking a pal and lowering their health, you can have a higher chance of capturing that pal compared to just throwing a spear right away. Of course, later on, as you get better spheres, it will be possible to just throw it and catch a lower level pal, but for that to start and majority, of this, you will have to go through the game a lot, but at start, just attack them, lower their health first, and then use that sphere. Once you catch a pal, there will be in your pal deck that we will talk about shortly. By pressing the E button on the keyboard, for example, you release that pal. When released, pal will either do something on their own, like for example some work based on their own suitability, or will just be there to help you fight. Actually, one of the tactics when fighting with your pals is to get them back into the sphere as the enemy attacks so they don't take any damage, and then you release them again. In your party you can have up to 5 different pals you can call, but you can only call one at a time. Of course, some pals have the ability to be alongside you all the time, like for example Daydream, so you can use their special ability to be around you all the time, plus another pal to technically have 2 out, but it's not the case all the time, especially later on in the game. So as you can see in my party, I have one flying one because I can mount it and fly, one riding pal because I still need a pal to ride on foot because, sometimes I don't like flying all that much, 2 fighting and 1 King Paka, which is mostly there because of its passive to increase my carrying capacity. Other pals have passives where, for example, if you have them out, all resources, dropped by pals will double, so always read what each pal does when you unlock them. You should catch a pal 10 times because you have XP bonus and, 10 times which scales with your level, so it doesn't matter if it's a starting pal or a big one, always catch 10 of them, doesn't matter which level you are because you still benefit. Now each pal has a certain work suitability, and in Palworld you have different, for example, kindling, planting, handiwork, lumbering, medicine production, transporting, watering, generating electricity, gathering, mining, cooling, and farming. Below it you also have food consumption, meaning that smaller pals obviously eat less food for their work compared to the bigger ones which are going to eat more. But the difference is that bigger pals, or higher level pals which you get later, do better and faster work, but they eat more. You can check all of that in the pal deck menu, and also remember that for each pal you capture, you have their habitat in the pal deck, so just click on them, go to habitat, and it will show you where to find those pals or where to basically farm them later on. Pals also have traits and weaknesses. With each pal you capture, there is a random chance that it might have good or bad passive skill. Good ones, for example, are like Musclehead, Vanguard, Swift, Workaholic, and so on. But they can also have weaknesses like being Hothead, Pacifist, and other things which does result in them performing worse. So always look at which pal you put in your base or your deck or basically your party, because if they only have negative traits, then they will not be very useful. So what about that work suitability, you ask? Well, a perfect example is farming. As you can see here in my base, I have farms, and for that to work, I can of course do it myself, but it's going to be very, very slow. Plant it, water it, gather it, and then take it to my feed box. But instead, at start you will have Penglet, for example, who has watering, so his job will be, to go around the area and water those plants or, those farms. Alongside him you will have, let's say, a Gummus who has planting only, and other extra pal who will transport all of that back into feed box. That's pretty much the same for everything else, but just keep in mind that farming skill for a pal is related to the ranch that we will talk about later on, so it's not confusing. Also, these work talents for each pals, they go up with, stronger battle pals. So eventually you will be replacing your starting roster with a better one. Pals are also divided into different elements. There are 9 elements here, which in total are Dark, Dragon, Ground, Electric, Fire, Ice, Grass, Neutral, and Water. Their element will kinda tell you what they can do around the base, but that also means their attacks will use that element. Later on you will find power fruits that you can use on your pal to switch out their attacks in case you want a different one. Those power fruits you can also find throughout the map itself, and once you use it on a certain pal, just go into your pal inventory, or well, on that certain pal, and switch them out as you want. That means that different pals will do better or worse damage with their attacks depending on the element. So electric beats water, water beats fire, fire beats grass, grass beats ground, and ground beats electric. Also fire beats ice, ice beats dragon, dragon beats dark, and dark beats neutral. There is a very nice image of showing that, so you can kinda consult this graph here. Make sure to remember these elements, especially when you start fighting stronger enemies or bosses. And now that you know the basics of how PAL works, on level 2 you will get PAL box and PAL spheres, or well, the ability to craft them. Once you place a PAL box, that will work as a base, so my advice is don't put up a PAL box right away on the starting island, but rather walk further down until you see a nice flat ground, because until it's fixed properly, having a base with different elevations means a PAL will get stuck more often. When you place the base, you will have a circle that you can build in. Good thing about this game is that every resource you have in the base can be used as you build, so you don't have to have these things in your inventory, you can just have them in the chests pretty much around that base, and it's going to work all along. PAL box will also work as a way to organize your pals and pals in your party, so you can change which ones you want or how many pals you want in general. Besides that, PAL box also works as a fast travel from or to somewhere, and there you can also upgrade your base, which allows you for more pals to be placed in the base, and which, how many bases you can have. Right now on max level you can have up to 3 bases, or well, you get the 3 bases early on, but even if your base is on a top level, 3 is going to be max. Pals also need a place to sleep, so make sure you have beds for each, otherwise their sanity will go down. Also by default, in the base you can have up to 15 pals, and I believe right now you can extend that to 20 in the settings. If their sanity goes down, they get stressed and work less, and we don't want that. So make sure to always have food, which, for the most part are going to be berries and of course a bed. At start you will have to collect these berries on your own. There is a lot, basically at start, so just go around and pick them up. But as soon as you unlock berry farm, place 2. Get your pals on top of it to have traits to water plant, and they will take all of that into feed box and ultimately eat from it as well when they get hungry, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Pals with certain abilities like Ike tier will be gathering wood for you, so within your base, each stone, each tree will be cut down by certain pals, if they have that, of course. But what I recommend is making a logging site and a stone pit, so that pals will only focus on one place and not around cutting down every tree they see, because ultimately it will take longer for other pals to pick it up and bring it to your chest. Another good tip is to have a chest very close to each farming place. So next to the logging site I have a chest because it takes less time for pals to get it and carry it there, ultimately making, more time to work on other stuff. Keep in mind that the game still doesn't have a proper priority system for each pal and what they do, so some of them will be running around doing one thing for a minute, then go back doing something else, and then go back to do that thing again. Next up we have Statue of Power, which you can get on level 6, which I recommend building. So here you can do 2 things. You can enhance player capture power by using Lifmunk effigies you find out in the world, which increases the chance of you capturing a pal depending on which sphere you have, but in general it's going to scale for all spheres. Keep in mind that a higher level pals require higher level spheres, which also results in better or worse capture chance. but you know, getting this to max level should be relatively a priority for you. Lifmunk effigies are all over the map and you have more than enough to max level this. Best thing you can do is wait for the night and then go for it, because it will be very easy to spot them, they shine really bright. I also waited until I got a flying pal, because most of those Lifmunks can be, you know, in higher places and all around everywhere, so I just go around, fly during the night and collect them. Another thing you can do is enhance pals from your party. With this you level up their health, attack, defense and work speed. I always put a lot of points into attack and max health, because the pals from my party usually fight only and work for traversal, much less for work, and the other pals, they're pretty much in the base doing their own thing and farming for me. And you find these pal souls from drops or just all over the world, there are a lot of them to collect. Palworld also has dungeons which you can enter. Each one has a boss inside, it's going to refresh every now and then, so again it's going to be infinitely, you know, going in and going out, and some chests to pick up. These chests can give you material plus some crafting recipes, meaning that you can get a higher quality level of, let's say, your bow or your armor. So running these dungeons from time to time is very good for both experience and these recipes, and of course for bosses. Dungeons have a few variations, you know, so far, but most of them are the same, although keep in mind at the end the boss can be pretty much different pals you find out in the world, so it's not always going to be the same. Good thing is that you can explore them fully, since each part will have something, either some new pals to capture or some resources you can get. And I was trying to figure out what is the best way to explain resources gathering and management with pals, but the best way I can show you is from my own base. So as you can see here, I have pals on farming duty, pretty much, you know, non-stop, because I need a lot of food to feed my camps, to craft different stuff like more food and so on. By doing this, I don't have to worry about food at all. On top of that, I also have these things like a fountain, flower bed or silo, which further increase their ability to gather, water and plant these things even faster. In my first base I made, after starting, you know, I kept my wood and stone production, so they are always producing it, because, you know, stone, wood, ore, you will always need it. You will constantly need resources for either pal spheres or crafting weapons, armor and so other things, but especially for pal spheres. So the production has to flow non-stop. I will also go around, queue different jobs and leave it as is, because after some time pals will, you know, do all of those things and craft you all of those components. So before I go out, for example at start, I left my pals to craft me 300 arrows. So when I come back, I'm going to waste all of my arrows on fighting, but I will always have a replacement ready as soon as I go back into my base. And in my third base, for example, I have a camp only for gathering ore, being that you will need a lot of ore for anything in this game, like really, from start to end game pretty much. At the end of this video, I will go through the best starting, you know, pals and where to get pals which are gonna be crafting ore for you. For resources like wood and stone, you don't have to worry about making another base, being that by making a logging site and stone pit, you solve most of those problems. But for ores, for example, there are very good spots which you have a lot of those nodes in one place, so it's easier to mine them. So I just make a base in one of these locations on the map and that's it. Here you can see like 2 to 3 locations which I consider very good for farming ore. In Palworld you also have raids. Keep in mind that those raids are in-game PvE events, since the game doesn't have PvP right now. And raids will start off slow, like a few wild pals attacking the base or some other factions. Later on it pushes a lot stronger enemies, so you will have to make choke points or, you know, get those enemies before they reach the base, because they won't attack you even if you attack them before reaching the base, and then they go crazy. Later on, I will be honest, these raids became a bit annoying because, well, they kept happening for me every 10 minutes. You can turn them off if you want in the world settings. It won't really do anything, nor it will, you know, stop you from getting achievements or progress. As I said, you can make the world and fine-tune it to your liking, either making it very easy because you want to do one thing only, or making it extremely difficult. Next up we have breeding. As your base is coming along, you will have the ability to breed pals. Online you can find every single combination to breed and what it gives you, or you can experiment on your own. For this you will need one male and one female pal and cake. Cake can be made in cooking pots and it kinda requires a bit of resources, especially because you need milk, egg and honey, which takes a bit to farm. For milk you will need mozzarella, which can be found right here, so once you capture it, you make a ranch and put them in the base. That's it. They will go there and make the stuff automatically, and other pals, if you have them, will take that milk into the feed box. You can then take it into a fridge so it doesn't spoil right away. And in general, because food spoils, kind of fast, having a cooler early on and then this guy to basically freeze it, because, well, the cooler doesn't work on its own, it has to have a pal to cool it down. It can be kind of important as you unlock it on a skill tree. Also, for now, by pressing the sort button, the timer will actually reset, but keep in mind, I don't know if this is just a bug or a design decision from the devs. And also, do keep in mind, for every cake you make, because it spoils in about 10 to 20 minutes, you can take it into an actual box next to your breeder and it's going to basically stay forever, it's not going to spoil. Very good for that. For the egg you need chippies, so very easy to get early on. They can also serve as extra food source, early on next to berries. And for honey you will need bee guard, which you can find in this habitat. You also have Elizabeth, but keep in mind she only drops honey as loot. Only bee guard can go into the ranch and make that honey for you. You also need, flour for that, and in general the best thing you can do with this is to farm Bristilla, which you can find here. They drop wheat and lettuce seeds, but for now you will not need lettuce seeds right away, just keep them. Wheat seeds are going to be much more important. Also, when breeding two pals, remember that their passives do transfer, so only breed pals with good passive skills, because you can potentially end up with a very powerful 4 golden passive traits which make that pal really good at either working or attacking. Condensing is also a big thing in this game, meaning that let's say you bred a very good pal with great passive skills. When you want to make him even stronger, simply condense that pal with other same pals you don't use, but remember, always first click on the pal that you want to stay, and then pals which are going to be condensing into that one. Also, don't waste pals and condense them into a pal which is weak or doesn't have good passive skills. It's just a waste of resources. I always breed first and then condense that pal to make it even stronger, but in order to condense it, you must have a good pal. Condensing doesn't require any special resources, but you have to go around and catch a lot of same pals to get them to, let's say, 4-star. Now when it comes to food at start, berries will be enough, but when you start farming, don't go around baking 1,000 cooked berries because they don't really give you a big boost and they will spoil very fast. You can always farm pals for meat. For the base, leave raw berries as they are, they will be more than enough until start getting bigger pals, but even then it was pretty much enough for them to work and be in relatively good condition. Once you have a wheat farm and berries, for example, in your cooking pot, you make jam-filled bun, which is pretty good since it replenishes your hunger fast and kind of throughout like the full bar, and also the hunger of your pals in the party. You can also have fried eggs from farming or hot milk, but the jam-filled bun was definitely one of the best, food I actually saw in the game. Later on, you can also add salad as well when you start farming for lettuce and tomato. Of course, the better the food is, the better the effect from it. But always keep better food for your pals in the party, which you fight with or, go around and explore with, and berries for your camp working pals. On the map, you will also meet traveling traders. Don't attack these ones, you can trade with them, for gold or sell stuff for gold in general. You have 2 important settlements at start with traders that it's this one and this one. Fisherman Point is very good because there you can also buy ammo for each type of weapon you have. I recommend this as getting resources for ammo can be a bit tricky later on because it does require a lot of ingots and, other stuff. You can technically capture traders and have them in your base. I think even you can still buy from them or sell, but not sure if that's going to be fixed later on. There is also a form of a criminal activity in this game if you go to these places on the map where you can capture some very interesting pals. But once you have a flying mount to even get to this position, for as long as you don't leave your mount, you will not be chased. If it happens, just leave the island for a second, go back, and it's going to reset. For the end, I will give you some more tips regarding farming and getting resources. So at start you will need a lot of pal spheres. If you have a Vixie and place it into the ranch, it will give you pal spheres. You find Vixie here in this habitat, very useful pal for the beginning. You know, condensing them and making it better will, I believe, give you up to a mega sphere, which is pretty good early on or mid-early gameplay, but obviously later on you will have to craft better spheres. Another cool little thing is that by pressing the R button, or well, controller equivalent, you can place stuff in the box which is already there. So let's say in one box you have a bunch of resources like wood or whatever. By pressing the R button, only items which are in that box will transfer over, the rest will stay. This is going to be a bit faster and easier in case you want to organize. Another advice I can give you is about wooden structures. So they burn and they can burn down, so be careful in case you are attacked or set it on fire, because once it's caught on fire, well, the fire will spread. Potentially you can lose half the base. So don't go into huge wooden structures because, well, there is going to be that possibility of burning down, because stone and later on iron structures are going to be much more efficient. And remember to farm bosses. They give you ancient tech which you will need for a lot of weapons later on and some of the other stuff, and they will also give you some nice items. Now also they will be giving you some of their special items, which is basically good for selling to a trader for a high price. So if you farm these and then you use all of those, you know, drops for them to sell them, you will get a lot of gold. And make sure to always have a lot of spheres. You go through them very fast, so always have pals on the workbench crafting them. Another very important tip I can give you is about farming ore. So let's say you go to one of those spots I showed you to mine ore. So you don't do it yourself, you find dig toys. And dig toys you can actually get in this area over here. They have rank 3 of mining, meaning that they will go and mine that stuff very fast. But also keep in mind that in this you will also need some other pals which are going to carry that, you know, ore to the actual box, because they only do farming, or well, they mine ore, and that's pretty much it. Now next to those guys, basically in the same biome, you will find hangyus. And hangyus are pretty good because they're gonna be storing stuff really fast. So in my base, I always have one of those dig toys to actually, like, you know, mine ore, and then a hangyu which is going to bring that ore back to the chest. Very simple. Now from time to time as you explore, you're going to hear a certain sound. That sound is actually going to be a special pal who's going to usually be super lucky or have some really good stats. You'll recognize them easily, first off, as I said, by the sound, and second of all, you will see like certain sparks like flying from them, so absolutely catch these pals when you see them, do not kill them. So this is my beginner's guide for Palworld. Good thing about this is that it will have many little nuances and things for later, but I didn't want to go through everything, especially late game tips, you know, being that this video would be too long. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button if you want to see more Palworld content, and also join our community on Discord and Twitter. Huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters, and as always, have a great day. See you in the next video. Bye bye.